All right, friends, we are live. I'm gonna give it a second for people to come in from whatever platform you are coming in from. Okay, I see you. There we go. We got some people. Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Haley. I'm super excited to hang out with you for the next hour. If you don't know who we are the Novel Neighbor. We are an independently women-owned, operated bookstore in St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm really excited to spend the evening with you guys celebrating This Ends in Embers by Kamilah Cole. We were so excited that she wanted to come back virtually. We hosted her last year for her first book. So we were like, this is a perfect full circle moment for us. So before I introduce Kamilah tonight, I wanted to kind of go over the plans for the evening. And it's typical like our virtual events go, so nothing out of the ordinary. So towards the end of the event, we'll have an audience Q&A. So feel free to drop questions in whatever platform you're watching this on, and just keep those questions coming. Chloe will be in conversation with our girl Kamilah tonight. So personal best friend, Chloe Gong. So a little bit about Chloe. Chloe Gong is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the critically acclaimed Secret Shanghai novels, as well as the Flesh and False Gods trilogy. Her books have been published in over 20 countries and have been featured in the New York Times, People, Cosmopolitan, and more. She was named one of Forbes 30 Under 30 for 2024. Chloe graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a degree in English and International Relations. Born in Shanghai and raised in Auckland, New Zealand, she is now located in New York City, pretending to be a real adult. And for our featured girl of the night, Kamilah Cole. Kamilah Cole was a writer and an entertainment editor at Bustle for 4 years, and her nonfiction work has also appeared in Marie Claire and 17. A graduate of New York University, Kamilah lives on the East Coast, where she's usually playing Kingdom Hearts for the 100th time, quoting early SpongeBob SquarePants episodes, or crying her way through Zuko's redemption arc in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Honestly, that's too relatable. But I could truly yap all night about these girls, but why don't I just introduce them and bring them in?
Hello. The intro.
Yeah, it was so great. I need to update my bio since I know.
I was just gonna say you are no longer on the East Coast,
you
as
were
we were
literally
just
yelling at me.
You have actually abandoned us.
Yes.
What's that all about?
I moved to the Pacific Northwest, to Seattle specifically, and Chloe is not handling it well, even though it's been almost a year.
I'm not. Yeah. Have you met any vampires yet?
Not yet, but I haven't been to Forks. I plan to go.
Day trips to Seattle too.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. They don't take day trips, first of all. They're vampires.
Okay. They take rainy day trips.
But yeah, I haven't seen one yet. But to be fair, I haven't left my house. I'm in my hoa season right now. So
that's an interesting way you say that.
Is it not hoa?
I think of it like hua. It just makes me think
she goes,
Kamilah Cole, double threat, writer, singer.
This is the content that everybody logged in for.
This is in fact a virtual concert. We are not here to talk. We are here to sing.
Sing all of our responses. Chloe, I miss you so much.
No, come back.
Yeah, we have talked about this. Let's not have
get on the plane
argument in front of the people. Yeah. Okay. Hi.
Well, until you come back, we are here doing a virtual tour, virtually celebrating This Ends in Embers. How do you feel?
Tired. I was asleep right before this. I will be asleep.
You know what? That's so valid. It's your release week. You should catch up on lots of sleep.
Yeah. Yesterday I did 3 different things. I had a school visit. I had the launch event. I had PT. Not that you guys need to know about that. So I basically came.
You don't want to talk about all your problems with your hand.
I'll show them my weird pinky. Oh
my goodness. I too have weird pinkies. Every time I see people in real life, I have bent pinkies. You can't see it really on camera, but my pinkies don't straighten.
Yeah, well, mine are also not straight. We're talking about this. My pinky kind of goes its own way, if I may High School Musical for a second.
Your own way. Your pinkies, what about us? Okay. Let's get into the business. So last time we were here with the Novel Neighborhood, this time roughly last year, we were talking about So Let Them Burn. And I went back to look at my questions, actually. I was very curious what I asked back then. We started talking about your publishing journey, actually. So now that we're celebrating your second book and a finale to a duology, what has it been like? I'm sure the experience has been different knowing you have fans that are eagerly awaiting to know what happens.
I don't know about this fans thing, but
Oh,
listen, I am talking to #1 New York Times bestselling author Chloe Gong. I have seen fans
and
fans.
and
I don't know.
I know your fans. They are lapping it up. They are devouring what you give them.
So if we can move on. So Let Them Burn was great.
Yes.
This is
So
the
Let
book.
Them Burn, your debut experience.
Yeah.
And now
This
you
is the
published
book.
her sister, so to speak.
Yes. So this book was good. Writing wise. It was good to write because I had so much time. This book I wrote from first draft to final on deadline, and it was a nightmare. I had to send drafts that were basically illegible to my editor and be like, at some point it was 2 a.m. and I started writing in wingdings, and I think I changed it back, but I'm not sure. So good luck type of thing.
Wingdings is still a language.
It's
still beautiful.
Yeah, good luck to them. So that was really difficult. Writing on deadline is really difficult start to finish. I will say that. And it was also my first time writing a sequel at all. I've never had to continue a story and let alone finish it in a satisfying, way like you did with These Violent Delights and These Violent Ends.
Yes, don't go through
Our violent ends.
Keep going with your answer, Missy. Don't throw it back at me.
You understand that like the duology setup is like you set it up and then you like try to knock it out of the park, and like you have to kind of let it go and understand that like no matter what you write, because they read the first book, they had expectations and you can't meet those. You just have to write the story that you wanted to write and just let go of the fact that some people will be like, this is not what I wanted. So that was also really hard. So I would say that got in my head a little bit while I was writing this, but I think at this point I wrote the best book that I could. I'm super proud of it. I love the way the story came together.
Love. I think that's the thing about a duology, like it is such a specific structure where book one has existed and you are playing off of that, but you must also expand in a way that's a little different as soon as the series grows, right? Because then you have momentum. A duology is very truly a mirror flip of each other, and you have to work with that and deliver. Yeah, it is very hard. It is an achievement to finish a duology.
And people get in your head because by the time you are like fairly far in the process of getting the final book ready, that's when the first book has hit and people have opinions. And you're like, I can't really change up that much. You might be making a point there.
This is what's so interesting to me about like publishing timelines, right? Usually that next book in the series is done, materially done before book one has come out. And a lot of people are either thinking, oh, it was all written so far in advance and like everything's been pre-planned, or they're thinking that book two is written like a month before it releases. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. There's time in the printers. That book needs to be done and designed.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people are like, I'm going to tag you in this review so that you have my constructive criticism for your next book. And I'm like, baby, it's done. Baby, she done. What you have to say is between you and you, because book's done.
Sometimes I wish it was societally acceptable to reply that. Baby, it's done. It's so powerful.
My agent,
you have to be responsible.
Yes, my agent has to stop me sometimes. I'm like, I so badly want to say this, and Emily is like, no.
Denied.
Okay. Sometimes I just want to be like, okay, ! And nothing else.
You know what? That's not that bad.
Thank you.
Thank you. It could be worse.
I won't do it, but good to know.
Yeah, it could be worse. So with the sequel, we are once again returning to the world with the same POVs, these two sisters who, they love each other. And also a lot of things are happening. They have to fight.
So many things.
It's rough out here. But so much has changed from book one. Book one really changed up the status quo, either between them and with them and their world. So how did it feel approaching the world in that way? You are at a place completely different to book one.
Yeah, it was really, really difficult. I knew that for the series, I wanted them to start in two completely different places and kind of envy each other for where the other one is. And then I wanted to put them in each other's shoes so they could really understand each other on a new and deeper level. But even knowing that that was what I wanted to do, the actual practice of it was so hard. Because the things that Farron would do in her capacity as her role in the book are so different from the things that Alara would do, because Alara can follow instructions and Farron doesn't. And then Alara, she was just a normal private citizen, whereas Farron is like a notorious villain. Whatever Alara does is going to be more like well-behaved and muted and righteous, and whatever Farron does is just going to be so dramatic and loud and wrong. So going into that book, it was just trying to balance those two things, because the through line of the book is that these two girls, they grew up together, they love each other to the detriment of everyone around them. And I do try in book two to show that there is a detriment to their intense loyalty to other, but to that detriment, they're always going to believe each other has good intentions, and that was so important to me to show. I was never going to have a moment where they doubted each other or left each other, even if the rest of the world was telling them to. So that kind of kept me. That was like my headlights in the darkness. Like no matter where we're going in this story, like the love between these two sisters is what's guiding us down the road. Yeah.
Was there ever a moment in the writing process where there was something you had to live by in order to distinguish their voices and their thought processes from each other, or were they different enough that wasn't really an issue?
I think that they were different enough, honestly. So Alara, when she speaks, tends to be a little bit more internal. She thinks more, and then she'll finally say something. So if you read her chapters, it's like she thinks this, she thinks that, she's thinking about this, she's very emotional. Farron's chapters, it's like she did this. She acted, yes. And then like when she's introspective, it takes like a long time, because it's like she's thinking for the first time. So if you go back and read their chapters, most of Farron's non-dialogue paragraphs are actions, and most of Alara's dialogue paragraphs are emotional thoughts. So that's
interesting. This look into craft. So similarly, on the note of craft, because I love craft. Like I feel like craft is one of the most interesting things that you can hear from the
so fun and interesting.
Right?
Yeah,
it is, because it's like there are certain elements where I think it is interesting for a reader to kind of like muse on about. And there are certain aspects where it is just, I think, most enlightening to hear what exactly that intention was and what someone's interpretation of it. I think it's art. It's beautiful. So on the note of craft and theme, there is a pressing war, in this Ends in Embers. And something very interesting, I think, is that So Let Them Burn is so much about living in the shadow of a war. Something has happened already. The Chosen One is an archetype explored in the aftermath. And now, Farron and Alara are going through war a second time. So how did you approach that? What was something that was, top of mind for you in terms of these characters are not thinking about the war in a way that I think we're used to in YA fantasy? They're kind of familiar with it. What was your thought process?
So for me, these books, the main theme of them is not just the enduring love of sisterhood, but that war is hell. Even if it's justified, it fundamentally changes something about you, about your world. And you lose something in the violence of war, whether you lost someone or whether you were fighting in it or whether you were just swept up in it in other ways, you lose something. And so basically, if you are fighting in a war, just make sure that the reasons that you are fighting that at war are reasons that you can live with. That's the overarching theme of the book. So in order for that theme to exist, I wanted to look at the war from the quieter moment. Because when you are in a war, obviously things are very, very immediate. Emotions are high. We have read very many YA books where it's like, we're fighting in this war. I fell in love with this guy. We don't have time to talk. We have to go to the next thing. Like, So Let Them Burn. So Let Them Burn is about the aftermath.
Yes.
Like, we made choices and now we have to figure out how to move on from this war. This ends in Embers is most of the book is preparations for war. The war part is like the last part of the book. And the part that I wanted to look at is, how do countries decide to go to war? How do they decide who does what and when and how? Because those parts of a war are the parts that affect the most lives, I think, more so than the war itself. Because if a country takes a really long time to get involved in something, people die. If they get involved too soon, people die. If they decide they want this or that and they won't do this, if they don't get that, people die. Because we don't get to be in those rooms. We don't get to be in the room where it happens. So putting the characters in the rooms where these decisions are being made and having them react to hearing people talk about other people as if they are pawns on a chessboard or like statistics, when they are your people, they are real people and they need help now. That's what I wanted to examine when it came to book 2. All this entire series is basically about the quiet parts of war, and the parts that affect normal people the most. So it may not be the most interesting or exciting to other people, but those are the emotions that I really wanted to play with. Because as a child of the 90s, shut up, Chloe, as a child born in 1990.
I was born in the 1990s.
I don't think you count. Are you?
I will have you know, I lived an entire year and month of the
Wow, impressive. I'm so impressed by you. As a child of the 1990s, I have lived through like 3 wars.
Yes.
At this point, and I was not involved in any of them, thank God, but my life was shaped and affected by them. So I think that was the perspective that I was coming from.
Yeah. Which is something that I feel like is so valuable, not only in fantasy in general, but YA fantasy specifically for teenagers who are reading something that is so archetypical of fantasy is a war erupting. But I think when these books don't necessarily explore the decisions of countries and why they fight, it just becomes this idea separated, divorced from everything. And that's not how it happens. Everything is so, again, reading is political, right? Like as an international relations major, every time some conflict is erupting in fantasy, I'm like, how is the trade looking? What was the route? What are we talking
getting water from?
Yes, exactly. Or like, what are the power dynamics? Is it like, as we see in your duology, is it a small nation and that bigger oppressor over them? Are they equal countries? Things like that. That's interesting. It's what.
Yeah. And I think you did that so well in the Flesh and False Gods trilogy. 2 books are out already, by the way, guys, so you should pick them up if you haven't read them already. Is examining how, you know, the people in power are playing their little games, like locked up in their gilded palaces, and the people on the streets stuffed together like sardines, the people out in the districts and the further villages who are suffering the consequences of those powers. I thought that you did
it's so incredibly funny for you to bring up that series talking about your book, because I think the audiences must be so separated, because it's like, I think your characters intrinsically, like Farah and Alara, they are good. They are trying to do things for the good of the people, for the good of their kingdom. These characters in the Flesh and Blood series, they are not good. They will delude themselves in the same way that you expect heroes to normally be talking about the risks and costs of war, and they want power. So
listen, if you're talking,
we're not going to merge our worlds.
If we're talking about my baby August right now, I will not hear any criticism about him and his amazing
about his tyranny.
His amazing choices. My baby tyrant has done nothing wrong.
I mean, you know, I support that. I think in our lives we're allowed to choose one war criminal to stand. Like, you know, I walked into the theater for A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I was like, okay, I get you.
Not even me to be a President Snow stand
only in the prequel.
when he still had like a modicum of like
yes. You know, he started to decay over the years, and to that, it gave me August vibes. You know, if we're talking about that.
Yeah, I think August will probably start to decay as well. But at least in the first 2 books, you know, his delusions are my delusions.
Okay. Moving on.
I think you read my book wrong, but go on.
Moving on. So, there are some beautiful romantic subplots running through this duology. No spoilers. But did you want to talk about if you had a favorite ship, perhaps? Was there anything that you felt yourself leaning more toward being excited to write, or did you have any favorite moments? Tell us about it without telling us what happens.
So this is terrible. My favorite ship actually does not happen in the book. Farron, she is demisexual, which means that she does not feel attraction to people until she has an emotional connection with them. But you will witness her build an emotional connection with 2 different boys. And she chooses one. And I loved writing the scenes where she was with the other one in, especially in book 2. Like in book 2, we have like a who hurt you moment. We have like him being in awe of like her unleashing her powers in a way she can't when she's like a good guy. We have like fighting from the inside of the soul to get to her. Like all of my favorite tropes I kind of gave to this doomed ship, which I don't feel bad about because I love a doomed ship.
There's something so cathartic.
Yes, it's beautiful. Like Farron, who Farron ends up with, if she ends up with anyone at all, is very like, it makes sense for her and who she is and what she wants. And I think that they, like, the ships that I chose aren't because, like, I didn't write my ships despite of anything. I wrote them because I thought they were the best ships for the story and the characters. But writing that push and pull between this, like, will they, won't they couple, I really loved doing that. I really love, this was not the book for that, but I love a villain love interest. So yeah, this was not the book for that.
You're like, warning now before any reader goes into the sequel thinking there's a villain love interest.
Don't come at me. That was not the point of this particular book, but I love a villain love interest. I love that, like, I will set the world on fire for you type of thing. And it was meant, in this story, it was meant to foil, like, Farron would set the world on fire, but not for that kind of love. So I loved writing there. Like one of my favorite scenes was the scene where he was like, who hurt you? And because when I got it back from my editor, like, she had like a little note there that she was just like, never take this out.
At least you know what is good content that you
can. Yeah, she was like, yes.
Am I hearing you hint that you do have a villain love interest up your sleeve for other works? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mayhaps, yes. I have a book coming out in summer of 2026, the start of a new duology. It's called Wicked Endeavors, and I think that should tell you everything you need to know about the morality of the people involved. Although, to be fair to Wicked Endeavors, I think the protagonist is the villain love interest.
That's the best type.
It's true.
It's also, to be fair, it is very hard to do both a villain love interest and a scathing criticism of colonialism at the same time. You know, like, you can either have the colonial villain or the sexy one. They're not. They can't be the same thing ever.
Yeah, it comes across a little hollow, a little.
You're right.
So that's a book for that. But there will be future books about that, and for my next one, I'm reading, you know, a lot of my favorite villain protagonists, Juliet Kai.
She redeems herself. She burns the structure down.
Listen, I read her. I love her. I think she is one of the blueprints. And yeah, we'll see for my next book.
Well, can't wait. Well, back to this book.
I keep escaping to talk about your book.
We are here. You cannot escape me. I'm not even halfway through my questions. So, you have a very expansive character cast, as one does in a fantasy, where there are many, many threads and many, many players who are each tugging at their, own parts. How did you balance them? Are you a color coder? Are you I will put this down and come back to it and see who has to do what?
I love world building Bibles. I love to start them and then never finish them.
You're better than me. I never even start them.
It's literally my favorite part. I have to tell myself that you can't just keep being on baby name websites having names just in case you need to name a random character kind of thing to start the book. So I love world building. It is my dream one day to write a fantasy series that's so popular that the publisher is like, can you do like a world encyclopedia? And I will be like, I have the content right now. Let's do this. So for So Let Them Burn, I went so overboard that my editor had to ask me to pull it back. Like there were more country names. There were more, like every Drake has 3 writers and there were more Drakes, and I knew the writers of each of the Drakes and when they got chosen and what color the Drake is, like all of this information. So I had all of this information readily at my fingertips. But it was really funny. For people in the audience, when you write a book in a series, they give you a style sheet where they have like
I am a style sheet's worst nightmare.
They give you like the list of the characters, they give you like a summary of all of your chapters, like every word they give you, they ask you questions, and you're like, I have never looked at my style sheet because everything on my style sheet was already in the world. I looked at my style sheet for the first time last month. Book's done.
I still don't look at it. I control F my own ebooks. Like
I had the world building Bible, and any questions they asked me, I was just like,
I so respect that, because I am the exact opposite. I too love world building, but I think in a very different way. Where if I was doing historical world building, I would find as much information as I could possible, and then kind of like very selectively put stuff in. After my agent was like, we cannot be writing a textbook. And I was like, yes, you are right. We cannot be doing that. But even in fantasy, I realized the other day, I don't have all of my provinces named. There are like 30 of them. There are 30 of them, and I just named like 10 or so, the ones that we ever see in the series. Because I was like, you know what? If they never visit it, what's the point?
That's what my editor said when telling me this.
You can see how we're on different ends of the spectrum of what do we do with it.
Like when they were making my map, I had so many cities named on San Irie that you couldn't see the cities that mattered. So
yeah, I'm the opposite. I was like, let me name some provinces so the map doesn't look so empty.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, Chloe, you have a map now.
I do. I have a map, and you'll notice that some of it is just left blank, because I was like, I can tell you there's a province there. I'm not going to give it a name.
I'm so done with you right now. That is so funny. I was literally like, look at all this empty space. I can't wait to see what it means for book 3. I was like, it means nothing.
That would be like future, like, I just think anytime something's not relevant on the page, it's future author's problem if you do like a spin-off or another book or a continuation. Because my worst fear actually is roping myself in. I've done so many spin-offs that I have to like work around past me if I've set a detail in stone.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
And your readers will.
They will notice. And the problem is if they notice something that you haven't noticed, they think there's an Easter egg and you're planning something else. And it's like, oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. Sometimes I just go with it, honestly. I've had a reader be like, I noticed in your book that you did this and it thematically means this. How did you do that? And I'm like,
and you're like,
yeah, into that. Thank you so much for noticing.
That's right. Okay. Was there any character that was giving you particular troubles, Or on the flip side, was there any character that you went in being like, I know how to write you and I'm going to get this down?
Honestly, the character that gave me the most trouble in this Ends in Embers, and this is a spoiler if you haven't read book one, is Lightbringer, the villain, because I never want a villain whose entire shtick is just that they're evil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Which is crazy, right? Because you look at real life and you're
you
like,
look at real life, and that's kind of how it happens.
yeah.
But like,
but yes, in fiction, you gotta.
In fiction, there's one of my favorite shows is called Community,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a quote. One of the characters, Abed, is talking to another one of the characters named Jeff, and Jeff is yelling at Abed that not everything is a movie, and he basically says in return that, like, I know that not everything in movie plots have to make sense. We have likable leading men, like, you know, everything has a reason. In real life, we have this. In real life, we have you. That blew my mind. But I apply it to how I write, that like no matter how cartoonishly villainous the world around me seem, in a book, things have to make sense and they have to be compelling. And I wanted Lightbringer to be compelling. And since we spend a lot more time with him in book 2, I really had to dig in and think, like, why are you doing all this, man? What's the reason? And especially since at the book 1 ends on a cliffhanger of like awful things happen to everybody, but like, why are you not just why are you doing this, but why are you still doing this?
Right. Motivation.
Exactly, motivation. So that was really difficult to really dive into his psyche, but I enjoyed what I found when I got there, because I think he had a pretty like unique reason for being bad, which is just that, you know, when you go down in history, if you can't be the hero, be the villain. Relatable. Like you try so hard to be good, and then you make one mistake and that's all people know about you. Well, all right. All right then. So that was hard. But the easiest to write was probably Reeve. He isn't even. Let me not talk about what Reeve's doing.
You said, let me not spoil.
Let me spoil this, but I will say that Reeve being around makes every other character easier to write. So I can't talk about why, but I love him.
You're giving the readers who haven't read it yet a thread of something to be excited about when they come into it.
Yes. Yeah. I really liked how I deepened the characters in book 2. So yeah.
Wow. So very infamously, you have discussed how So Let Them Burn experienced many revision rounds to a point where my jaw was agape when you were talking about it. So how was the writing process itself of this Ends in Embers? Did you, of course, you were on deadline, so it was very different. We already heard about the wingdings earlier, but was there less overhaul because this was a duology? I find that normally the second half is something that, because it has to speak to the first half, you are less allowed to overhaul it. But tell us that.
This is great. I did maybe 3 or 4 from start to past pages, like rounds of edits. And the fun part was I would write the book and then I would just turn it in. I did not read the book from start to finish.
Oh, I never do that. I think I stopped doing that with my debut.
I didn't read the book from start to finish until past pages. And that time I'm glad I did, because I actually caught that Lightbringer made the same speech at the very beginning of the book as he does at the end of the book, like in its entirety. And so I had to cut one of them. But yeah, I would just finish it. And then I would send it to my editors with like a little meme, you know, that Squidward meme of him like dying and holding up the sheaf of paper.
You know what meme I like? I like sending, you know, the horse one where it's really well drawn in the first half and then it becomes a pencil sketch. I
Yes.
send that every draft because I feel like drafts get worse at the end because you run out of energy.
Yes, I ran out of energy. Something
Yeah.
like my agent is always telling me like your books end when you decide that they are done, not when they actually feel like they
Sometimes my books end with a to come. Okay, so like you're done.
sometimes my book are just like I'm done now. I have nothing more to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah, but I would send like my editor a new meme with every round. I'm like, I didn't read this. I just fixed the parts you told me to fix until they were like, this book is so good. And I was like, is it? So for past
No way! Let me read.
for past pages, I read it from start to finish. And honestly, I am lucky that I was able to do that because I have very, very thoughtful editors who know how I work and who know that I'm such a great reviser. Like I'm like, you tell me what to do, it'll get done with flowers on it. Like I will. But like for the first draft, whatever happens there is between my editor and God. I wrote it, it's done.
Yeah.
No problem now.
I always think of the first draft as a problem between me and God, and my editor is like the tortured prisoner who has to lay eyes upon it.
Not the tortured prisoner.
No.
But aren't you also the what you do like your first drafts with like, don't you do with the brackets in it? Like put something here later type of first draft?
I do that if I'm really running out of time. But if I have enough time, I will try to fill the brackets in with something so bad. Because you know what? I find that like even if it is like the worst string of English words known to mankind, having it written in prose still really helps me when I go back in revision to understand what I'm really trying to get at there, as opposed to when you do a bracket and you're like, here, so and so is supposed to happen. You understand what is supposed to happen. You don't quite understand why and how that fits. It's
That's
just
so
not
fun.
quite
Yeah,
the same.
the context is important. Yeah, I get that. I
The
get
feeling, the
that.
rhythm.
Yeah, feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like being a traditionally published author because I've always just needed somebody to tell me what's wrong with the manuscript and then I'll just fix it. So that
I
was
truly think having editors that understand your vision
Mhm.
is so critical to getting a book to its final form. I think anything that authors work on alone is going to be vastly different in scope to something that's been pushed to its full potential.
And I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously, I mean, my view of my own writing doesn't matter, but like I can tell a story from start to finish. But if I want it to be a good story, I like want some trusted outside opinions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
On that note, were there any deleted scenes that you can tell us about that were fun that had to go?
Yes. So in the original version of This Ends in Embers, Farron's arc was that she was spending most of her time trying to get someone who is imprisoned somewhere to come out and help her against someone else.
Okay.
It's big enough. So she
it is big enough. I don't know what you're talking about.
So she was going through that person's like backstory. She went to the village where they grew up that no longer looked the way that it did when they grew up. Like she took them to like places that they went to when they were alive. Okay, we're getting it. I'm just gonna say it. This is a spoiler, so mute until I do this. In the original version of This Ends in Embers, Farron was trying to get Gael out of the Aya of it all. And he was doing this by like taking him back to the fishing village where he was born and raised, even though it significantly changed since he was walking the earth, and taking him to like different places and like diving more into his past to make him feel like a person and less like part of an entity, so he would help her. So I had to delete all those scenes, obviously, because that's no longer what she's doing in this Embers. But there was one scene where they were in the town square, and it's so different from when he was there, but he was telling her that his father was a toy maker. And that he kind of grew up like knowing all like how children play, and like he misses like that innocence, that innocent time when like the world was as innocent as having a ball and a bat. And like Farron's listening to this and she's basically like, how can I use this to help myself? But like I thought that the moments where you got to learn a lot more about Gael's past was beautiful, and I was sad to have to lose those, because they really bonded during those times. But it was better in the final book that Farron feels increasingly more isolated, so she can do certain things. So it all got
darling.
The spoilers are done.
Well, the thing about deleted scenes is that they can always make their way back for like bonus content or newsletters, you know?
Yeah, I do have a paperback coming out next year. I'd be happy to stick something in there, so we'll see.
Exactly. So last time we also talked about your inspirations for book one. So I would love to hear, did any particular media really speak to you as you were creating book two? Was there anything you wanted to draw off of thematically, aesthetically, etc.?
I don't remember. Last year was a blur.
You know what? I get that. We can skip this question.
Last year was such a blur, Chloe. I don't remember anything that was happening. I was debuting and I was scared.
That's so fair.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can pivot to like, do you have any like recommendations for people if they want something either similar or they're looking for like their next read after this ends in Embers?
So I don't know if you guys have read this book called These Violent Delights. It takes place.
Okay.
I always say that, like, I mean, if you like my books, you will enjoy a lot of anti-colonial literature, which I have read. So honestly, These Violent Delights does count because it talks a lot about the different foreign powers that are coming to take over 1920s Shanghai and how it is affecting and pushing out the native Shanghaians. Shanghaiese?
Yeah, Chinese works.
Yeah. How it's pushing.
I do always want to put that disclaimer, right? Where it's like there is that level of like, these people are also very powerful in the community. And so they are in that weird middle space that, you know, they understand what is happening on a larger scale. And they're also like, well, do we want to stop it if we're benefiting ooff it? And at what point do we stop it? Because, oh no, like, woman who voted for leopard biting party is getting things, right? Like,
yeah, but that's what I really like about your book, though, because it's like anti-colonialism. I mean, you know, this is an international relations major, but it's not just one thing. Like the entire subject of colonialism is such a complicated thing because one of the justifications of colonialism is like, oh, we made their country better. We gave them roads, we gave them this, like, but you took so much as well. So I like anything that plays with new and interesting takes on what it means to be colonized and what anti-colonialism means. So it is with genuine emotion that I am recommending. I'm not just doing it because I'm being difficult. I do think These Violent Delights is a great book to read because it's a different kind of conversation, but it's also a necessary conversation. So yeah. I also I really like, well, this is an adult book, but it's called like Saints of Storm, and I want to say Fury, but it's probably not Fury. It's by Gabrielle Buba. It is Saints of Storm and something. And it is a Filipino inspired fantasy about a girl who has like storm magic powers, and then like her country gets colonized and she's like trying to hide them, and then she falls in love with another woman, and it's all very good. So yeah, and basically like it came out last year is why it's top of mind for me, but like basically any kind of anti-colonialist literature, which I think that we as people of color write so well. We're grappling with so many different aspects of it, especially as part of the diaspora. So diaspora?
I think both are valid.
I don't know how to say that word.
You're valid.
Yeah, and then if you just want a book that is full of the joy of a culture, the joy of a culture that was never touched by any other cultures, like the Black Panther of it all, where like you were never colonized, and like this is just a full, like, read The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. It is a love letter to Arabian Nights. It is a love letter to so many stories that the author Chelsea Abdullah grew up with when she was a kid, and it is, you know, everybody in The Stardust Thief is from this same culture, and it's just really cool to see how a world can develop and flourish and have their own magics and their own problems without having to discuss colonialism.
Wonderful. Well, I have one more question, and then we'll turn it to the audience, because I'm sure the audience also is dying to ask questions. But before then, tell us what's coming next for you. You'd already mentioned your next YA, but I know you also have an adult coming out. So tell us about it.
My adult debut, it was supposed to come out this fall, but it's been pushed to January 2026. It's called An Arcane Inheritance, and it is a adult dark academia fantasy about a girl, a 21-year-old Jamaican-American girl named Ellery Morgan, who starts college late at an elite university as a freshman, and then she begins to question her reality when she finds a tattoo she doesn't remember getting that's written on the back of her neck in her own hand that just says, "Remember." So she has to team up.
Every time I hear you pitch this,
she has to team up with the school golden boy, Hudson Graves, to figure out like what she's forgotten and who stands to benefit from keeping her in ignorance. There is a lot of mediation on the dangers of higher education in all white spaces for Black women, and there is a lot of kissing. It's a little steamy. It's new and different for me. And yeah, I'm really excited about it, and it's getting a deluxe edition package, so if anyone in the audience wants to pre-order it, that'd be really great. And then comes Wicked Endeavors, which is the start of a new YA duology in a Spanish Renaissance inspired world about a girl who infiltrates the high society of elite witches that conquered her country so she can get her revenge during their annual social season, but her revenge is complicated by her feelings for a manipulative enemy prince and her traitorous childhood friend.
I'm so excited.
I'm really excited about that.
Incredibly excited. So plenty more for people who are finishing this book and they're like, what next?
Yeah. What do you have coming next? Chloe Gong, tell us about Cold Wire.
I have my book called Cold Wire coming next November 4th. That is live on the internet already. I can say that. I'm really, really excited because I have been wanting to write cyberpunk dystopia for a very long time. I took a class in college called Race and Dystopia, which basically talked about how cyberpunk emerged as a subgenre because in the West, because America was so scared of Japan. They were like, what if the future was scary and Asian? And that is the basis of cyberpunk. And so I've really, really wanted to work with that and look at all of these tropes effectively that are a sort of stand-in for the Asian body. And it's been so much fun. I'm so excited for the cover reveal coming soon. It's very, very fun and cool and everything that I would want for the kind of, thriller-esque story that
I'm so excited. And then do you know when the third Flesh and False Gods books is coming out yet? Or
I'll know when I finish writing it.
Not me stressing you out.
It's slated for summer 2026.
That's really soon.
That's like a year away. We're not even
in publishing timelines.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. We'll get there. We're strong. We'll get there when we get there.
Cold Wire, November 2025. You heard it here and on the internet. Exactly.
Okay.
And on that note, you can pre-order all of these books from the Novel Neighbor. Self-plug is real.
Exactly.
Okay, my friends. Now is the time you all have been waiting for. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I've been seeing some come in as I'm going. So I've been starring them on my little side chat as I'm going. And the first one I think is really, really fun. Considering the weekend we had with the Grammys. Last year, you said you based your first book off of Zendaya's look as Joan of Arc. Do you keep up with award show fashion, and like what has been your favorite look since?
Great question, because Chloe, I also do want to know if you have a favorite look ever. So
Ever.
because we never talked about this, so start thinking. But I do and I don't. So when I worked at Bustle, part of my job was to cover award show, and now I am triggered anytime I have to watch an award show.
That's crazy.
Your day didn't start with the award show. It would start at like 5 or 6 when the red carpet starts. And then when the award show was over, it would end at like 3 a.m. after you'd gone through all the articles, made sure they were finished, made sure they were like quality.
So rough.
Yes, it was. And I had to do this for every award show. So as soon as award show season started, I was miserable. So now I can't watch them.
That's crazy.
I literally cannot watch an award show. I get so upset. So I love that people like live tweet them, because I can just see the parts that I want to see. And the outfits are definite, like the Met Gala outfits. I love like seeing it on Twitter. I won't watch the Met Gala. I will just see the outfits come out on Twitter. I won't watch the Grammys. I will just see everybody tweeting that Beyonce won Album of the Year. Like,
and that's all you're gonna get.
Exactly.
So as far as costumes go, I mean, I'm always waiting for Zendaya to show up at the award show. I think the year after she did Joan of Arc, she did Cinderella with the light up dress. Yeah. I adored that one. And I always really love whatever what is his name? Like Coleman Domingo shows up in. I think they made him a chair for this Met Gala. He is so fashion, guys. Like, he is what fashion means. Such a handsome, well-dressed man.
The fashion industry.
So whenever him or Zendaya shows up, those are usually my favorite ones.
Listen, La Roche has done wonders.
Amazing. Anytime she goes anywhere.
Yeah.
Woo,
like, oh my god, the rollout for the press tour for Challengers went so crazy.
Every single outfit when she wore for Dune, the entire silver, like, amazing.
And like for like the Spider-Man tour, every press like tour she was on, or whatever interview, she dressed up like one of the villains in Spider-Man.
Oh, she's so good. We're just like all of Chloe's answers.
No, but this is why it makes me so mad that like the author world doesn't have this.
No,
like why do we not have those equivalents for our tours? That would be so fun.
You guys should have this. We hosted Tomi Adeyemi like last summer, I think, or last summer, and I think she went to the Met Gala one year, and like I asked her about it, and I was just like, what was it like? And she was like, oh, it was so amazing. Like, I got to dress up. And I'm like, you all deserve this. I would do that.
But that's why
it's so creative. You guys would have like the best costumes.
But that's why, like, anytime I have a launch, I've had 2 now. I will wear the most obnoxious outfit to my launch, because that's
as you should.
Yeah, that is my red carpet. Like, I'll do it.
As you should.
You should have walked it, girl.
So Chloe, now is the time.
I honestly do not know if I pay enough attention to specifics, because the one thing that comes to mind is the flower dress that Taylor Swift had at one of the Grammys when she matched her mask to it.
Oh my god, the pandemic one.
Yes.
Yes.
That's like the first thing that comes to mind for like a look where I was like, I love that, you know? But otherwise, I'm like, they're fine.
Also, did we see her in her red Vivienne Westwood
with the tea?
With the tea,
nice touch. I enjoyed that.
Yes,
it was so tasteful, and her
I enjoyed that.
So good. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the next question. I'm gonna talk about Taylor Swift's eyes all night. Anyway. Did you have to do any character work with Farron or Alara, or did they just appear to you?
So Farron just appeared to me because when I was doing like what happened to the chosen one after they were chosen, my thing was I would just like, if you told me I was a holy child when I was 12 years old, I would be a jerk about it for the rest of my entire life.
One trope.
If I saved the entire world when I was 12 years old, nobody could tell me nothing for the rest of my life. So she was very, very easy. Alara I had to do character work for because I wanted her to contrast from Farron, but not just feel like everything Farron was not. Like I wanted them to feel related, but I wanted her to be not just some generic whatever bad thing my sister does, I will do the good version of that. I wanted her to be awkward. I wanted her to be a useless lesbian. I wanted her to like just like I wanted her not to be the straight man to Farron's antics, but to have her own antics. So I had to do a lot of work on Alara, but Farron was so easy because she's just every burnt out gifted kid I know is socially anxious and just like so done and either like still trying really hard to act like they're not trying or has given up on trying and is just leaning into chaos, and Farron was the leaning into chaos type, so that was really easy.
I fully thought that question was asking if you did any method acting when I heard character work.
Into the role.
Actually, yes. To write Alara, I would bother my sister a lot more. And
she pulls like an Austin Butler.
I would dress up like them. And
yeah.
I have a personal question, kind of like bumping off of that. I always, whenever I think about this duology, I always forget that Farron was 12 when she saved the world.
Yep.
Would you ever like go back and write like a middle grade prequel set during that war and how she saved the world?
No, I would not.
No.
Easy. Easy question. No. It's because So Let Them Burn, the Divine Traders duology in general is not about what happened during the events of this particular war. It's about what happens after war in general and how you move on from what has happened. And I think, like, while a lot of people have asked me this and a lot of people are interested in about what happened during the war that we hear so much about, like, it's not interesting to me, like, what they did in this particular war. I want to know, how do you live?
Like, how do you recover?
How do you recover? Because there's always going to be a war, unfortunately. You need to know how to bounce back from them however you can. So yes, no. Also, I would just never write middle grade.
So
middle grade is so hard. Oh my god, a good middle grade, like the amount of voice work
I
that you
have
need to put
so
in.
much respect for middle grade authors because I can open one and it's like you transport me in a way that's like almost whimsical as compared to how dark YA is.
Yes, exactly.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I feel like I think about middle grade and I think about Jasmine Warga all the time because I love her books, and she just had like a mystery come out, Cherry Hall, and whenever we all read that, we were just like, oh my god, this is one of the best middle grades we all have like read at the store in like a long time, and it's just like the mastery of like being able to like do that is.
Have you ever read Ruby Lost and Found by Christina Lee?
Christina Lee truly peaked.
Middle voice of a generation.
Yes, agreed.
Love. Okay. Next question is, what books were the biggest influence on you growing up?
Chloe.
Chloe, what do you mean?
Both of you, I feel like.
Not specific, so Chloe.
Well, okay. See, it's always funny when I talk about the biggest inspirations for me growing up because people blink and they're like, that was like 5 years ago. I was like, I can't help that. So the Shadowhunter Chronicles obviously shaped my entire personality. The Raven Cycle also shaped my personality.
Love the Raven Cycle.
Like blue colored my mental brain.
My brain chemistry.
I love Gansey so much, you guys. I think about him all the time.
Me too.
I'm just like, I hope Gansey's happy right now.
He's happy.
I don't think literature has literature the same since Blue and Gansey.
Yes.
I really don't.
I lost my mind. That's yearning. That's yearning.
Yes, exactly. I And also Daughter of Smoke and Bone.
Oh,
I feel like
Taylor
those
so
series
much.
are like peak. You know.
Love Laini Taylor so much. For me, I'm a little older. So. Every time I hang out with Chloe, I'm like, I'm an adult, and Chloe's like, we are both adults.
I'll have you know, I am pushing 30. I'm
Are you pushing
the
it?
big 3-0.
Yeah.
Are you pushing it with your little finger, Chloe? You're pushing
Yes,
30?
I am.
Sorry, please don't hate me. Twilight was formative for me for all of its
yeah.
problems. For all of its problems, I was such a twihard. I learned yearning also from that book series. And I really, really, really loved. I've just forgotten every book I've ever read.
Suddenly, I can't read.
Yeah, I can't
What
read.
happened?
Laura Pierce was a huge influence on me. The Tortal, every quartet that she's ever done but those are from like the 1980s and stuff. So real throwback. And then I think I also really love the Raven Cycle. There weren't a lot of like Black fantasies or anything when I was growing up or that I had access to. I'm sure they existed. So none of those really got to influence me until I was like in my 20s. So it was Tortal showing me that women could be in fantasy, and it was Twilight showing me that a perfectly average girl who does absolutely nothing could be involved in an interspecies war just because they love her a lot.
Interspecies war is crazy.
So yeah, those are the books that really pushed me to where I am today.
Listen, I love Maggie Stiefvater with my whole heart. I will never forgive her for being so mad at us for not giving us Gansey and Blue in the Dreamers trilogy. I will hold that grudge until I die. And Maggie, if you're watching this, it's personal. I love you.
I remember I was reading the first book of the Dreamers trilogy, and then like I got the ebook just so I could find Gansey's name. I was like, does he show up at all?
We want a little road trip.
I was like, before I finish, I need to know.
I need to know. Okay, we have time for one last question, and then we will let you guys go for the evening. Can you talk about your mid-series cover change? Did you help decide these new covers? I'm absolutely obsessed with them.
Oh, thank you so much. No. So
You're like, no.
So let them burn. So let them burn. And it originally looked like this. So this is the cover of my dreams. My favorite color is, in fact, pink. So you can imagine. So when it came time to do the cover, they got a Jamaican artist, and they were like, "Is there anything you want? Anything you don't want?" Because I get to consult. I don't get to like make every decision, but they take my opinion into account. So I was like, I would like one of the sisters on the cover if possible, and I would like, her to look super fierce. And then I said at the bottom, in all caps, bolded, underlined, and italicized, and it was like slightly bigger than the rest of the text, "I hate orange. Don't put it on my cover."
I remember you saying
that. So that's how we got this, which is a dragon book that features no orange. And then, like a month, or no, not a month, like I want to say a year afterward, they were like, "So we want to change the cover because like people aren't getting that this is a dragon book." And I understand why. Just a girl's face. Dragons on the back, but like who's looking back there? So they were like, "We want to do covers that like more scream this is a dragon book." So this is what they ended up doing with the new artist.
A clear dragon.
So how do you feel about the orange?
So when they sent this cover to me, the email began, "Hi Kamilah, I'm so sorry."
Oh, they even knew.
my editors, Alex and Crystal, they were like, listen, in the room, we told them, please, our author hates orange so much.
To be fair, it's the color of fire. It's not just
I
orange.
do understand, because I was like, when you
Like
show
yellow, I feel like.
when you show this to me, I'm like, I can't really argue with this.
Yeah,
Like,
it's yellow red.
And
And
it's
just-
striking. It's so striking. It's so
Yes.
gorgeous. So they were like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I have to admit it looks good. So I said that. I just wanna
This blurring happening.
So Let Them Burn came out in paperback, and they were like, good news, we are getting you sprayed edges. Oh my god. Guys.
I gotta go.
So anyway,
they look great with the cover and everything. I together and I love these covers. I do.
They're so pretty. I really like them.
They're gorgeous. But that was my struggle and my cross to bear. And
you know what? We respect your personal preference, but it does look good.
It is an amazing cover. It's so striking. People love it so much. And honestly, that's what matters, because I'm not buying my book.
That's so true, because you know who is buying these books? The people watching.
I hope so.
Exactly.
And on that note, we are all out of time. I wish we could truly
What a
talk
wonderful segue.
but you can buy all of Camilla's books and all of Chloe's books at thenovelneighbor.com. And it's crazy because we know how to use the mail. We're really good at it. So we would love to ship you these books. Or if you're local to St. Louis, hop on over. We have a really cute store and you can come say hi to us.
I love this mail shade. I don't know what the shade is at, but I love it.
Like, we know how to use the mail.
Yeah. It's really just like a one-sided beef with like the Novel Neighbor and the U.S. Postal System.
Oh God.
And it's truly one-sided. The U.S. Postal System is amazing. They do everything for us. We love them. But sometimes a package gets lost and we're like, the U.S. Postal System. But thank you, Kamilah and Chloe, for joining us tonight. I hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. Okay, bye, friends.